Hi, and welcome back to my series of podcast-style interviews that came about during the virus lockdown as a way of sharing some stories and getting to know people behind their business or their brand. So on today's episode, I've been joined by Dartford-based mortgage and financial advisor, Brian Downton. 38 years experience in specialising in all sorts of financial planning, mortgages, protection, wealth management, all sorts of things, as well as running Downton and Ali for 20 years. This year, I believe, Brian is also passionate about helping in the community, does a lot of work for charities. So, Brian, thanks for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to actually have a chat with you.
Yep, thanks very much. So you pretty much covered it in your introduction, but yeah, 38 years in the financial services industry. The first 18 years were at NatWest. Left school at 16 and joined NatWest. Predominantly, I was in the West End and the City for the whole period. But for the last 10 years, I was a mortgage broker for NatWest. I was one of the first, they did a pilot in 1990 to have regulated mortgage advisors in all the branches. And I was one of the first, I went on the pilot, one of the first to be involved in that.
Wow.
So we did all the qualifications, and so 10 years I worked down the King's Road, which was interesting. Some good times down there. I was Kensington, one of the Kensington branches actually, over the period after Lady Diana had died. So that was quite busy up there then. And then the last year at Victoria Business Centre, where I suppose I rekindled my passion for working with other businesses. Early in my bank career, I was working in a branch, clerking for the manager, so learned how to read accounts at that point. So yeah, the last year at NatWest was interesting, sort of, you know, getting in contact with businesses more, which is why when I left in 2000 to join Ally Dunbar at the time, which became Zurich and then Openwork, a lot of my clients were business owners, so it's continued like that. So yeah, and then as you said, 20 years running Downton and Ali this year. 20 years ago in I think it was August the 1st, 2000, that I resigned from NatWest and went it alone.
Brilliant. So 20 years. I mean, that's a great accolade to have. 20 years in the business.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So yeah, gone through the tech bubble burst in the early 2000s, crash in 2008, 2009. We got through that, recovered from that, and now obviously what we're going through now with COVID-19. Interesting times we've seen over those 20 years, but I think it doesn't matter what happens in the world, people need good financial advice. So there's always going to be a need there for people like me.
Yeah. So it just to clarify, it's predominantly business that you sort of give advice to, business.
No, I give advice to on personal and business. So borrowing for commercial and personal clients, protection for both as well. So corporate and so I do a lot of business protection, but also mortgage protection, family protection. But I think what helps me is my knowledge of working with businesses helps me because a lot of my clients are business owners as well when I'm doing a personal mortgage. So you know the knowledge there helps with that as well.
Fantastic. So you started from so you were 16 when you started.
16 at NatWest. Yeah, straight out of school.
Crikey! I mean, what was it? Any particular reason that you went to work for a bank, or was it just something that you wanted to do, or just because it was a job?
Yeah, probably something to do with it's a job for life. And back in those days, it was a job for life. You got a job in a bank and you never left. So and I know people that I joined with who did that, and done their 40 years and they're leaving now. So they're taking their packages and whatever, but I went in a different direction. But yeah, I think that was probably it. I can remember I finished my exams on the Friday and started on the Monday.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So obviously you have a wide knowledge and experience in the industry.
Yeah.
What makes you unique? What would you say is special about your experience?
I think it's the varied experience I've had over the years working for the bancassurance, working for myself. I think what I can give to business clients when I'm dealing with them is the fact that I'm a business owner myself, so I know what they're going through. I know what the problems are, so I can look at helping them and know exactly what they're going through. So I think that helps a lot. I'm passionate about helping people, and whether that be in the business, helping people that way, or in the community, as you said, the charity stuff that I do, networking, helping people through all the networking I do, whatever that may be, I'm passionate about doing that. And I think that's really what makes me different from, I'm not looking for the next sale. I'm looking to build long-term relationships with all of my clients. I always have done. I'm not interested in, doing a sale tomorrow and then never speaking to that client again. I've got client relationships that I've developed since early days working as a mortgage broker in NatWest that I still have.
Wow.
And some of those are still, 30 years later, they're, a lot of them are still my best clients. So
Brilliant. That's amazing. And that's really important to me as well as a business owner myself. That the whole idea about building relationships is your first purpose, your priority. I think that's brilliant. You mentioned you do a lot of work for charity and in the community. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you do? So
in Downton Ali, we've always felt strongly about helping the community. So things, as simple as, I'm a supporter at Dartford FC. I'm a sponsor there. So, doing things like that. I've sponsored Dartford Living, which is a free networking group that meet in Dartford every 2 or 3 months. I've sponsored that for years. So, it's helping like that. And then also charities. So we've been running our spring ball for this year would have been the 4th year. We didn't quite get a chance to run it in the end. Hopefully it's going to be an autumn spring ball, but we'll see. But we've been running that for 4 years, and that's always supported local charities. But my working with charities really came from our network, or my network, Open Work. Our foundation's been running for 40 years, and it's totally different to a lot of. So it raises money, but it's not a charity itself. It's a foundation. It goes all the way back to Hambro Life days, Allied Dunbar, all the way through to we were connected to Zurich for quite a few years. The foundation is different in that all the money it raises is raised by people within the network. So they are the people who raise all the money. And then when we grant out, we only grant money to small local charities who predominantly deal with children. So, and maximum of £10,000 per grant. And a grant application again has to be supported by somebody within the network. I got involved about 8 or 9 years ago. I got involved originally on the raising money side of things. So I've done various overseas trips. I've done 5 or 6 overseas cycle rides raising money for the foundation. China, Nepal, India, Vietnam twice, Cambodia. So a lot of fun, but hard work. But we normally raise over 100,000 from that.
Wow.
The group of us, and various other things. And that's what really sort of initially sort of got my interest in the charities. But then came to a point where I was helping to raise all this money, and I thought, well, I'd like to have a say in where it goes. So over the last few years, we've had a £10,000 grant approved for Demelza, We Are Beams, and this year a small charity who I've really got to know the last couple of years, Holding On, Letting Go, who specialise in helping bereaved children. So
that's amazing.
And at the moment they are obviously very, very busy, sadly.
Yeah, it's a very
so yeah, we got a grant approved for them just before the lockdown, funny enough, back in March. So
wow, that's amazing that you do so much for them. You say cycling. I understand that you do a little bit of running as well.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm quite involved with the local triathlon club. So cycling is probably my love. I love getting out on the bike and in the fresh air. I do a lot of business planning when I'm doing that. Running, I do run a bit. I've got dodgy knees, so it's not as enjoyable as the cycling. And I absolutely love open water swimming. So which hopefully, fingers crossed, the lakes are all opening, so we can get back to that soon. So so I do triathlons, and that's another part of the reason the way that I raise the money for the charities. So 2 years ago in Austria, I did an Ironman triathlon. So,
wow.
Yeah.
How'd you find that?
13 hours, 46 minutes of constant moving. There we go. That was
Wow. Rather than you than me.
There we go.
Back in the day, maybe, but not anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Good for you, though. I mean,
yeah.
so you mentioned Beams as being one of the
Yep.
charities. Just run through the main charities again. Just
So over the years, this year, our main charity is holding on Letting Go, but
yeah,
also in the past we've supported We Are Beams a couple of times. We've supported Demelza, Stacey Smiles, which is another local charity down in Gravesend. So yeah, it's all local, predominantly local charities that help children. So
that's brilliant. I love that you're giving back to the local community
Yeah.
and helping so many people, especially that last charity. I think that's going to massive impact at the moment. Massive impact.
No, definitely.
So back to you, really. I mean, obviously you've been doing this for a very long time. Has there been anybody along that way that's helped you? You know, sort of key people or mentors that you would say that you'd like to sort of say thanks to? And
it's difficult, really. I suppose I've been married 28 years this year, so probably my wife Lynn is somebody I need to thank for putting up with me all those years. Other than that, it's really there's just lots of peers and people that I've worked with over the years who are very similar to me, who are very passionate about the foundation. I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence that within our network we've got a lot of businesses that have been in the same network for 20, 30. I'm a youngster out of some of them, 20 years. We've got plenty that have been running their businesses within the network for 30 years.
That's brilliant.
And it's the foundation, I think, that glues us together. So it's all the people who help, you know, within the foundation, as well as running their own businesses. You know, they're all people that I look up to, and yeah.
What's the last sort of year been like for you in terms of business?
Business-wise, busy, very busy. There's I mean, a couple of areas really. We deal a lot with pension clients, so clients who are reaching the age of 55 and have lots of options that they never used to have as far as what they can do with their pension at 55. But what we find is, so going back to what I said right at the beginning, so starting at NatWest at 16, when it was a job for life, you know, our parents went through their career at one employer predominantly, never left. You know, at the end of that period, if they were lucky, they had a pension, but just the one, and they lived through their retirement on that. What we're finding now, because people don't stay with the same employer now, people move around. So I quite regularly come across people who've got 6, 7, 8 pensions, all paid up, all sitting there doing nothing. You know, they're absolutely inundated with paperwork, haven't got a clue where they are. The funds are quite often no longer managed properly. And this is private pensions or company ones. So one area we specialise in is helping them get things organised, and then also getting things so that they can benefit from the pensions freedoms that came out a few years ago, which allows people to basically flexibility in their retirement.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to retire at a certain age. You can semi-retire, you can go part-time, you can take income when you need it and not take it when you don't need it. Totally different world. So it's helping people with that. Also on the mortgage side of things, been very, very busy. The market's been buoyant, rates are very low. So people are able to borrow quite cheaply. But the lenders are quite strict on their criteria. So I think more and more we're finding that people struggle to find the best lender for them. You know, they try and do it themselves. More and more people need the help of a broker who knows all of the lenders. So, you know, anybody who's got any bad credit, self-employed, you know, there's more and more people going self-employed. I think there might be even more after what we're going through. Yeah. So, you know, those people have not got simple income. You know, their income is not simple to look at. And sometimes lenders just don't understand it. So it needs a broker to find the correct lender for each individual person. So really busy there because more and more people are needing to speak to brokers.
It's a very different world than from the generations before.
Yeah.
When you talk about pensions.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, again, going back to our parents, you know, my dad would have gone into, he banked with Lloyds Bank. He would never have even considered going anywhere other than Lloyds Bank. to get his mortgage. Whereas these days there's just, there's a plethora of lenders. There's, we've got access to 50 plus lenders. Some of them are your high street ones. Some of them specialist lenders that only deal with certain types of property, certain types of lender. They price it for risk, but a lot of them you can't go direct to either. You have to go through a broker. So
through a broker.
Yeah.
So obviously moving on to the current situation with the lockdown and recent announcements. I mean, how has that affected your business, sort of like the recent times?
Apart from working from home, obviously the property purchase market has been shut. So that part of the business went pretty much straight away. Valuers can't go out. Maybe changing this week. We may see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, property market basically has been non-existent. So it's really, what I've concentrated on is getting in touch with and keeping in touch with the clients. So mortgage clients that have got, whereas normally we might contact a client 4 months before their fixed rate finishes, we're getting in touch sort of 6 to 8 months before, just to see where they are, what they're doing. We've been helping a lot of clients with advice on mortgage holidays. It's important that you consider what you're doing with those. It's a great thing that was done to actually help people through what we're going through, the mortgage holidays. However, it's not a grant. You've got to remember that. It is not a grant. It is, the lender is just saying you don't have to pay your interest for 3 months. That interest you would have paid is added onto your mortgage. So at the end, and you're going to be paying interest on it for the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, however long your mortgage is. So whilst it's a great thing there to help people, you need to make sure that you're doing it for the right reason. So a lot of help with that. And protection, we've been really, I think what's been happening has focused a lot of people's minds on making sure that you are protected, so that your family, if the worst should happen, if something should happen to you, your family protected, whether it be life cover, critical illness cover, income protection. So that's an area we're dealing with quite a bit at the moment. So
do you think are there a lot of people out there that are still unprepared, or that were unprepared and now they're realizing actually?
Yeah, I mean the protection gap is trillions of pounds, the protection gap in the UK. So yeah, there's you'd probably struggle to find a single person who is 100% covered. You'll have people right down the range, some that have got absolutely no cover at all, some that have got some but not enough, and just the odd few that are fully protected. So yeah, virtually everybody out there would benefit from a review just to see what they've got. Even if they got cover there, is it still suitable? So
yeah. And as sad and as downbeat it sounds, it's an important time to do that, considering what's going on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, another thing we've been doing for all of our clients, I think we're all having to bite the bullet with the technologies that are out there now, that have been there for a while, and doing this, what we're doing now on Zoom. I think before the lockdown, I'm not sure what percentage of the population would have heard of Zoom, but I'm pretty sure it's quite a bit higher now. There's even new words coming into the English language, isn't there? Zoomed out, and So, but I think it's making sure that we're up to date with all the technologies available, so that we can best help our clients. So, been doing a lot of reading and webinars and whatever to make sure that the business is in the right place when we come out of this, to take advantage of those savings that you can make by using the technology.
Yeah, I think nobody really knows what's going to happen, but we all know it's going to be different, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's it. We're not going to go back to how we were.
No.
It's going to be a totally different world out there. So, yeah.
Obviously, we've talked about what you're doing for your clients at the moment and lockdown. What's the future hold for you? What's your plans for? I know it's difficult to make plans at the moment about how far ahead we can project, but where would you like to see yourself going and your business?
Well, it was actually going through while before we went into lockdown. I'm in the process of purchasing a IFA business in Hornchurch, so that's going through. given me a couple of extra advisors in the team, and an extra 400 or 500 clients. So, it's going to be a lot of hard work over the next 6 months or so, getting those clients in, embedded into how we work. We've got constantly reviewing the staff. So got an apprentice at the moment, Jacob, who's really doing great things. So he's got another 6 months to go. Hopefully he will stay with us when his apprenticeship finishes. He's basically taken over our marketing since he came. So
brilliant.
Taking that all away from me. Yeah, that's really it. And I think, as I said, just making sure that we're ideally placed to help our clients at whatever stage in their life they're at. So that wherever they are in their life, in their life, we've got a way of helping them. So.
With that in mind, what would you say would be your right now? What words of wisdom you can share? Your top 5 tips in terms of financial planning and mortgages and protection. What would you say is the top thing that people need to be thinking about right now?
Yeah, I think mortgage-wise, review your mortgage. It's never the wrong time to review it. I'm quite happy to sit down with people who've got a year left on their current mortgage and have a look, where they are, what they're doing, because quite often you could find that there's something that they can do during that year or even a couple of years that will put them in a much better position to get a better deal when their current deal finishes. So whatever, if you're even if you're halfway through a fixed rate, review it, have a look at it, have a look at your circumstances. A lot of people's circumstances are changing at the moment. So, you don't want, if you get to a month, 2 months before your rate ends and suddenly find you've got no choice on what to do, it's too late by then. So review your mortgage, whether you're at the end of a fixed rate or not, review your mortgage. And as I say, we're quite happy to do that free of charge. Just sit down with somebody for half an hour and give them some hints and tips on what will help them. So that'd be number 1. Number 2, pensions. Really, either start a pension. When I'm talking to clients, I don't really talk about pensions. I talk about retirement planning. But a pension will always be part of that. At the end of the day, retirement planning is all about getting to the age that you want to retire with a pot of money that's going to give you the retirement that you want. It doesn't matter where that money comes from. It can be a pension, it can be an ISA, it can be property, lots of different ways of actually building that fund. But it's important. But at the end of the day, a pension should always be part of that because of the tax relief you get. And we don't know how long we're going to have that tax relief. There's rumours every budget that the Chancellor's going to mess about with the tax relief. It costs the government a lot every year. Bear in mind that going forward, a lot of money has got to be repaid from what we're going through at the moment. They're going to be looking at ways to do that. So, and it's unlikely to be retrospective. So if you haven't got a pension, start one, start getting that tax relief. Again, on pensions though, anybody who's coming up to age 55 needs to have a have a look at what they've got. Quite often people just don't realise what they've got. I saw a client actually just before lockdown, and his words to me were, I don't think I've got much. I've not really done anything with when we actually looked at it, I think he had about 8 pensions and close to £500,000 in them. And he was absolutely gobsmacked when we went through that, and he realised individually they're worth not a lot, but together. So having that review, having a look at what, if you've moved about jobs over the years, having a look at that and finding out what you've really got and getting it in the right place so that you can take advantage of those freedoms at age 55. And then I think the last 2 would be on protection. The current circumstances should have brought home to everybody how important it is. But there's 2 sides to it, really. It's your business and you personally. So, have a personal review, have a look at your family protection, have a look at your mortgage protection. Doesn't matter if you've got cover at the moment, review it. Again, because it may not be the right cover for you anymore. For example, critical illness is moving on every year. Critical illness policies improve and more conditions are added. Prime example is actually going on a ventilator, quite topical at the moment.
Very much.
Any critical illness policy over 2 or 3 years old is probably unlikely to cover you for that.
Really?
But we've got policies at the moment where that is actually a critical illness, classed as a critical illness. So they'd get a payment. So You know, things like that. Just reviewing it. Have a look.
Mm.
And then on the business side of things, making sure that your business is protected as well. Anybody who is either a partnership or a limited company, where there's 2 or more partners or directors who are not related, should always have protection in place in case something happens to the other party. Shareholder protection or partnership protection. And it's amazing how many businesses haven't, and you know, would get a huge shock if somebody that you've never worked with suddenly comes into your office one day and says, right, I'm your business partner now, what do we do here? So it's so important that, you know, that cover is there. So that would be my top 5. Yeah,
That's brilliant. I mean, that last point is something that I'm guessing, and you said it yourself, that so many people haven't thought about that, or they have, but it's not been on their priorities. But I think given the situation at the moment, it should be a priority.
Yeah. And some policies that can be done through businesses as well for the directors are very, very tax efficient. So, you know, any director should review their protection, because potentially they could save a lot of money by routing it through their business rather than personally.
No, great advice. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, obviously you've got your banner up behind you, I can see. Is that the best place for people to get in contact with you? Your website?
Drop me an email, give me a call, send me a message on Facebook, whatever you want, you know, and I'll be, you know, quite happy to spend 5-10 minutes on the phone with anybody, just chatting through where they are, what they're looking to do, even if it's just a quick 5 minutes of advice about, you know, mortgage holidays, whatever. More than happy. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I'll make sure that I've got all your links, and when I share the video, it'll be all in there, so that people can get in contact with you. I guess really just, is there anything else you want to say? Anybody you want to thank, or have you got any other words of wisdom you want to share with anybody watching this?
No, not on the business side, but on the going back to the charity side of things, we've talked about the spring ball and the money that's raised, and I mean that's raised is normally about £8,000 a year, but that wouldn't happen. That money wouldn't be raised without all of the businesses that sponsor it. So, you know, they are absolutely incredible. The businesses that sponsor the event, come along to the event every year. Hopefully we are, you know, it's been rebooked for the 18th of September. Fingers crossed we'll be allowed to have groups meeting by then. Who knows? If it's not, it's not. But no, yeah, I'd just like to thank all of the local businesses that have sponsored us, and thanks for sponsoring us in the past, and hopefully they will again in the future, because that really it does mean a lot to us what we can raise on at those events, but it can't happen without the sponsors. So.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And credit to yourself. I mean, the amount of work and effort that you put into it. I'm always seeing something. Actually, I'd like to add, you're putting out a lot of stuff on social media at the moment, lots of little links and tips and little bits of news. I find that quite useful. So I just want to add to that. But again, just the work that you do with the charities is brilliant. It's so good to see a local business putting back into the community as they should. Yeah, it's been great talking to you. I've learned a lot, and it's made me think about my own financial situation, especially around looking at perhaps a review of my mortgage as well, because we have actually just changed recently as well, so it might be worth looking at it again given what's been going on.
No, definitely. And like I say, don't leave it until, that would be my big bit on the mortgages, don't leave it until a month before your rate's about to finish, because if something's happening in your circumstances that is going to affect it, that's too late. Whereas if we look at it a year before, and there may be things you can do over that year to mitigate any issues there may be. So.
And that's something that you can advise on.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, and unless there's anything else you'd like to say, it's been really, really fascinating. I've learned a lot, which is great. So I really appreciate your coming on. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.